Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about Black Panther Wakanda Forever and talk about the actual box office numbers that we're seeing from this movie. We're seeing some interesting things in the last 2 weeks, so without further ado, let's get into this story. Now here we see the worldwide box office numbers coming in at $675 million for Black Panther. I'm going to compare this to Doctor Strange, which did a total of $950 million. And of course, Thor: Love and Thunder, which did a total of $750 million, a little shy. So as it sits right now, Black Panther is sitting only $70 million away from Thor: Love and Thunder's number. So I do think it's going to surpass Thor: Love and Thunder, which is what I said the last time I talked about it. Now, originally I wasn't sure and I didn't think it would pass Thor: Love and Thunder, but after the initial week's performance, I thought, no, it probably will. And now I still think that it will pass. But let's start looking at how this movie compares to Doctor Strange and how it compares to Thor: Love and Thunder. So let's look at the weekend box office charts. So here we have the weekend comparison. We have the opening weekend for Black Panther, which was only $181 million. And that was a little concerning, considering that to beat $1 billion, it really needed to open at Doctor Strange levels or more. It did open above Thor: Love and Thunder, so after that first weekend, I thought, okay, no, it probably will beat this movie out. But the last 2 weekends have been very interesting because we've seen Black Panther: Wakanda Forever actually overtake Doctor Strange's performance compared to its second and third week. So we see that Black Panther had a $66 million second weekend and a $45 million third weekend compared to Doctor Strange, which only had a $61 million second weekend and only a $30 million third weekend. That means that whereas we saw like a 60% drop in these numbers from week 1 to 2 for Doctor Strange, and then we saw it get halved again, on Black Panther for Wakanda Forever, we saw a little less than that. We saw maybe about a 60%, not quite a 2/3 drop, but about a 60% drop. And then we saw something interesting where we didn't see as much drop. I mean, it was 66 million and then went to 45 million. So there wasn't no 50% drop. It was more like a, 25-30% cut versus this 50% cut that we saw over here on Doctor Strange. And if we go to the individual weekends, we'll see that bear out. So here we have Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We see the 60% drop. Then we see the 30% drop. Here on Doctor Strange, we see again, it was absolutely a 2/3 drop. So it's very similar, that 67% versus 63%. So the initial drop was pretty close on both of these movies. Then we saw that second week or I should say the move from week 2 to week 3 for Multiverse Madness was a 50% cut versus a 30% cut for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So what does this mean for Black Panther Wakanda Forever? Well, I think all we can say at this point in time is that it does look like it's going to surpass Thor: Love and Thunder, right? I mean, it would really have to... in terms of total worldwide box office is what I'm talking about here. I mean, it's definitely passed in terms of the domestic. Let's look at the domestic here. So domestic box office, Thor: Love and Thunder did $340 million. And in terms of domestic box office here, Black Panther Wakanda Forever has done $367 million. So in the domestic box office, yes, it's passed it up. Looking at total worldwide, I think it's going to pass it up there as well. So just being objective, I know there's a lot of people who want to see this movie fail, or maybe not necessarily see it fail, but they think it will fail much harder than it has. And I have to say, it hasn't really. I mean, that's not what we're seeing. When I go to the Rotten Tomatoes, I see that Black Panther still has a pretty high score on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm looking at a 94% audience score. Which is pretty great. Now, if I look at all audience, it's about 85% versus just regular verified audience. So, but again, we see that all critics and all audience matching up about the same review. So the review numbers are holding in there for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but let's check it out on IMDb. And on IMDb, it's still hanging in at a 7.3. And again, if I go and look, and I can see that definitely there are a lot of votes here in this 7 to 8 range. So it's turning in a solid performance. This isn't a movie where there's a bunch of 1s and a bunch of 10s and it's averaging out to a 7 or an 8 as a result. There's a few 1s, but it's mostly most of the scores are 6 or higher. So they're between a 6 and a 10. So an average in the middle of a 7.3 seems correct. And then we look at the mathematical average, that's a 7.2. So again, there's not a lot of spread on the weighted average versus the actual average. It means there's less fudgery going on here. And that of course means, that we think that this is a pretty legitimate score of 7.3, which matches pretty closely with this 85% we're getting from Rotten Tomatoes. The Rotten Tomatoes score always tends to be higher than the IMDb score. And for it to be about 10% higher, that's pretty good. I mean, this is definitely a good score for a IMDb rank. 7.3 is a good score over there. So in my mind, Black Panther Wakanda Forever has some legs. Now, what do I think is going to happen in the next week? Now, this is the interesting part here, because whereas this weekend I think worked for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the reason why we saw this small drop compared to Multiverse of Madness, this very small drop of only 30%, was because it was the Thanksgiving weekend. So people went out when in their spare time, because they had a long weekend, they went out and they saw this movie because it's still basically the big movie in the box office right now. It was only in its third week of release. So that's the movie to go see. And I think that this Thanksgiving weekend absolutely worked in favor of Black Panther here. But as we move forward, here is where it gets interesting. This is where we could see actually a bigger drop in Black Panther versus Multiverse of Madness moving into week 4 and 5. And the reason why is because, well, in week 4 and 5, we saw about a 50% and then a 40% drop in Multiverse of Madness. I'm thinking we could definitely see a 50% drop in this next week in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, possibly higher, but we'll see. The reason why is because now people are shifting into that section of holidays between Thanksgiving and Christmas, where they're cramming to get lots of work done because they're going to be taking another break in about 3 weeks. So it's crunch time. It's the end of the year. They've got 3 weeks to get all of their work done before their next holiday break and get shopping done for the holidays. So there's not a lot of time for movies in these next 3 weeks. So I think these next 3 weeks are going to be rather tough on Black Panther, but we shall see. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you think? What kind of performance hit are we going to see from the Christmas shopping and holiday season? Do you think we'll see an extra hit from that over this next 3 weeks on Black Panther? And then given that we're coming back, we'll have the next holiday break where Black Panther could see a bump. It will be in week 7. And if we look at the kind of numbers that we're seeing in week 7 from Multiverse of Madness, it was really low. It means that it's kind of past the golden spot by that time. It's past that moment where it makes most of its money, which is really in the first month, or at least the first 6 weeks, I should say, 5 to 6 weeks. Because after that, it just really fell off a cliff. You can see it made, there was a really good stable number here on Multiverse of Madness for week 7, and then it fell off a cliff. So we might see something like that where we have this sharp drop for the next 3 weeks, and then we see it stabilize the week of Christmas, where we only have like maybe something similar to this, only a 15% drop, because a lot of extra people who finally haven't seen this movie and haven't had time finally get to go out and see it. But then I think that's the last big jump, and it falls off a cliff, just like Multiverse of Madness. So I think the next week, by the time New Year's week rolls around, we will see a huge drop, and then we'll see Just like with Multiverse of Madness, we're going to see this movie drop below $1 million, and it's basically done for at that point in time. Whatever it's put in is what the numbers are basically going to be very close to final by that time. So I'm not sure what movies are coming out at the end of this year. That could also influence the numbers for Black Panther, so we'll see what those are. But let me know, again, your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of Black Panther's performance so far? Where do you think it's going to end up? I don't think, as I've said before many times now, I don't see it breaking $1 billion. Just personally, I don't see that happening. Now, I do see it getting close to Multiverse of Madness. I definitely think it could turn in somewhere between the $800 and $900 million mark. Does it exceed $900 million? Not by much, I don't think, if it does. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And in the meantime, if you want to continue to support the channel, then please click the like, share, and subscribe buttons. We're currently pushing for 1,000 subscribers, closing in on 900. So if you're appreciating the content, then please do subscribe, as it does help. That's all I have for now, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.